Let's have the debate. How many wins will make Texas A&M fans happy this season?
You are Locked On Aggies, your daily podcast on the Texas A&M Aggies. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome on into Locked On Aggies. I'm your host, Andrew Stefaniak. Thanks for making Locked On Aggies your first listen every single day. Today's episode is brought to us by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, when you bet on the Super Bowl winner, you can get bonus bets every time they win in the regular season. FanDuel.com/LockedOnCollege. An interesting debate has risen in my comments on yesterday's episode. And you know what? Let's run with this. Let's have this conversation. And I want this to be back and forth. I want everybody to let me know in the comments their thoughts on this season. I've seen a lot of people say that they wouldn't be satisfied with 9 wins this season. I've seen one person respond and say they would be. I've seen multiple people say that it's 10 wins or bust this year. Let's have the conversation. So I'm going to argue both sides. I'm going to make all these points, and we're going to see if we can come to a conclusion here on what makes the most sense. Personally, my first thought is I would be satisfied with 9 wins this season, and I'm going to get into why. My why is because I'm looking at next season. Now, when I say that if we go 12-0 and then win the national championship, yes, I would much prefer that than to win 9 games. But I would be satisfied with 9 wins because next year's schedule, when I say next year, I'm talking 2024, is a lot easier. It is all of your tough games are in College Station compared to this year where 3 of your 4 tough games are on the road. You have a pretty manageable schedule in 2024. What I would like to see this year is 9-3. You go 9-3, you're probably playing in a New Year's Six Bowl. So 9-3 to me would satisfy me. I would be happy with 9-3 if we see improvement with Conner Weigman, with Walter Nolan, Evan Stewart. All of these young guys take a monumental step in the right direction. I think that the 2024 season could be special. I think it could be a year where you win a national championship. So to me, 9-3 with a bowl win would satisfy me. Now, I get the other side of this argument, which is what I've been seeing a lot in the comments as well, is, listen, this team's had the talent for so long. We need to be winning already. We should have been 9 wins should be the floor for this team. I get it. People that are arguing that this talent, you have got to win 10+ games. But in the end of the day, it's an SEC schedule. That is my only response to it. It's an SEC schedule. You have to go to Knoxville, to LSU. Bama's coming to your place. You got tough games with Arkansas, tough game with South Carolina. I'm not saying that Texas A&M shouldn't win those games, because they should. Not all of them. I mean, they should beat Arkansas. They should beat South Carolina. I think they should beat Tennessee, frankly. But, I mean, here's the deal. It's football. You're going to have a game where you're going to have 2 games in the LSU game and the Bama game where you have to perform a team that I think is better than you are. I think personally, I don't think Ole Miss and Tennessee are better than Texas A&M. That people can come at me in the YouTube comments, which, I get that. That's okay. I don't believe that those 2 teams roster-wise are better than Texas A&M. I don't. I feel very confident that the Aggies are going to win one of those 2 games. Both are on the road. If they were at home, I would say I think Texas A&M wins both those games. They're on the road. I still think Texas A&M finds a way to beat one of those 2 teams, whether it be the game in Neyland against the Tennessee Volunteers or in Oxford against the Ole Miss Rebels. I think Texas A&M finds a way to win one of those games. So potentially both. I mean, I do. I think they could win both of those games. It'll be tough. I think that the schedule also plays a tough way. So let me pull it up and talk about exactly about this. But there's a few weeks that I just don't feel good about having these games back to back. So let's pull this up. So, of course, you play Miami week 2. I'm not super concerned about that game. I'm really not. I think that the Aggies win that one. And I think Miami is a good football team. And much like Texas A&M, I think that the Hurricanes are going to kind of be a bounce back team. Last year with Mario Cristobal coaching, things didn't go great, kind of like we saw at Texas A&M. And Texas A&M and Miami have been the two teams that people think are going to kind of rebound onto the scene and have good seasons. But so you open with New Mexico, you go to Miami to play them on the road. I'm still not concerned about that game. I think Miami's going to kind of get back to being a good football team. I don't know if it's this year. Then you got Louisiana Monroe at home, Auburn at home. I think you take care of business. This is where I start to not like things. Arkansas neutral site game. Alabama at home, at Tennessee. I do not like that stretch. I don't like any. That stretch to me is going to make or break the season. You have to go. I think you have to go. If you want to win 10 games, you have to go 2-1 in that stretch. Is that impossible? No, I think the Aggies can do it. That's the thing. Texas A&M has the talent to where if everything falls right, they could win 10, 11 games this year. I mean, they could. That's how talented the roster is. But things have to fall into shape. So, I've talked about the things for this team to click now. These are the things that I think have to happen. Offensive line has to be good. Bobby Petrino has to be what I expect him to be. Conner Weigman's got to take a massive step in the right direction, and the defense has to stop the run. Those are the 4 things for me. I've seen a lot of people in the comments agreeing with those 4 things. I've been pretty, I say that often because to me, that's the make or break to this season. If those 4 things pan out, I think Texas A&M can win the SEC West and have a berth against Georgia in the SEC championship. I do. I think that's how talented this team is. But a lot has to go the right direction. So, I want to know people's thoughts. Truly, are you all 100% legitimately 10 wins or bust? I don't know if I'm there. I think that it's hard. And now, listen, I'm not going to make excuses. I want to win a lot of football games. I want to win 10 plus football games. I think they can do it, but I don't know if I would call after a 5-7 season. And let me explain it like this. After a 5-7 season, I get it. I get it that people want this team to win 10 games right now, purely based off the fact of how good the roster is, how high people are on Coach Petrino. But at the end of the day, this team was 5-7 last year. It's not going to be easy to go from 5-7 to 10-2. I mean, I don't know if they're going to make that jump. Now, 5-7 and 9-3, I think is realistic, and I would be satisfied with that. I just think that 9 wins, 9 plus wins, I am satisfied on this season. 10 plus wins, I am overjoyed, through the moon, happy as can be. But 9 wins this season, go win a New Year's Six Bowl and set yourself up in position where you are ready to rock and roll in 2024 with all of this young talent fully developed, most of it in their junior seasons, ready to just dominate people. Yeah, with the players, Cam Coleman coming in, Draylon Miller coming in, Dalen Evans coming in, with all this talent coming in 24 that could get on the field as freshmen. Yeah, I'm DJ Hicks developing. I mean, I am all in. I'm all in on 2024. I could be all in on this year. Like I said, the stuff that I've discussed that has to click could click this year, and this team could make a run to the college football playoff, could make a run to the SEC championship game. That could happen. 100% could happen. But coming off a 5-7 season, I am satisfied with 9 plus wins. Let me know in the comments. I wanted this to be a back and forth. And let me know in the comments. I'll respond. We'll have a conversation back and forth. Why what is satisfying you? Is it 8 wins? Is it 9 wins? Is it 10 wins? Let me know in the comments how many wins Texas A&M has to collect this season for you to be satisfied. And I want it to be a conversation because I really want to know people's thoughts. I want to know where we're at. I want to know why we feel the way we do because, and I do that a lot. I'll respond to those of you that comment. I respond because I like to hear people's thoughts and potentially use that as content for the show. And, I want to hear everybody's thoughts on this. I think it's hard to say that you wouldn't be, to me, I think it's hard to say you wouldn't be satisfied with 9 wins. So I want people to let me know. Let me know why. Let me know in the comments. But I think Texas A&M is going to be in for a good season. They're going to surprise some people. I think they are that underrated dark horse to win the SEC. We'll just have to see how it pans out. And like I said, one more time, those 4 things have to happen. Bobby Petrino has to be as good as we think he's going to be. The defense has to stop the run. We need Conner Weigman to take a mondo step in the right direction, and the offensive line has to give him time and block for the talented running backs Texas A&M has. If those 4 things happen, if all 4 of those things happen, I then think 10 wins would be where I'm at. But it's hard to say all of them will happen. We'll just have to see what plays out on the field for the Aggies this season. But it's going to be a lot of fun. And like I said, one more time, let me know in the YouTube comments. If you are listening on a podcast platform, I appreciate you wherever you are listening, but you want to get in on this conversation, head on over to the YouTube comments and back and forth. We got lots of people commenting on a day-to-day basis, letting me know their thoughts on what I'm saying, what people are saying. So if you want to get in on this, how many wins satisfies you conversation, and you're listening on a podcast platform, come on over to the YouTube comments and let me know. And so I'd appreciate that. Hit the subscribe button. All that helps. The cornerback room has been one of the, if not the most interesting offseason position battles we've seen, because I didn't expect it. We're going to talk about, is this smoke or is this fire around some of these players that might win a starting job? That's coming up right here on Locked On Aggies. But first, I want to give a shout out to our wonderful friends over at FanDuel. Football season is about to kick off, and FanDuel is giving you a chance to win all season long. Because right now, when you bet on a Super Bowl winner, you can get bonus bets every time they win in the regular season. Just pick any team to win the Super Bowl, and you'll get bonus bets for every victory. You can use that on anything. You can use those bonus bets on spreads, player props, over-unders, and a ton more. Super Bowl winner. I've floated. I said the Bengals the other day. I've said the Chiefs. Let's give the Dallas Cowboys a shout out. Are the Dallas Cowboys going to win the Super Bowl? I don't think so, but maybe. We're in Texas. Houston Texans fans that are listening. I don't know. Hopefully the Texans take a step in the right direction, but I don't know if I'd go as far to put my bet on them to win the Super Bowl. So we'll say Dallas Cowboys for those of you Cowboys fans listening. Can the Cowboys win the Super Bowl? We'll see. I don't know. But if you think they will, put your money where your mouth is. And every time they win a game, you get bonus bets on FanDuel. So visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and start earning bonus bets with America's #1 sportsbook. That's FanDuel.com/lockedon. So back to talking about this cornerback room. My job is to speculate. That's what I'm here to do. That's what we're here to do. We're here to have conversations and speculate. And that's what we're doing. I've speculated. I knew Tyreek Chappell was going to be a starter at corner. We know Bryce Anderson's going to be over at the nickel. The question has been, was it going to be Tony Grimes, Sam McCall? Who's it going to be over there? I felt pretty confident it was going to be Tony Grimes. I thought he was the type of player that could be an all-SEC guy. I don't know how that's looking anymore because Jayvon Thomas, Josh DeBerry are taking over. The question we have to ask ourselves is this: is this smoke or is this fire? A lot of people, here's the question. This is the question we have to ask ourselves. Do we read too much, too little into what goes on at fall camp? That's the question. We have to decide. It's kind of like you say, Max Johnson ran out with the starters today at fall camp practice, but then on Thursday, Conner Weigman ran out first. It's like, how much do you read into that? Are we just confusing ourselves and stressing ourselves out about who's going to start for the Aggies? I don't know. That's the question, and we're going to run through it. I feel, like I said, I felt confident that Tony Grimes was going to be the guy. Josh DeBerry was always kind of that outlier, that guy that I wouldn't have been surprised if he worked his way into a starting role. I knew how good he was. I know how good he is. We knew how good he was at Boston College. I wasn't surprised if he would have come in and started, but I was high on Sam McCall and Tony Grimes, especially Tony Grimes, the former 5-star Grimes, had a so-so to good career at North Carolina. I thought he was going to kind of come in and rejuvenate his college football career in College Station. It's looking like he's not going to win the job. And that's the question. That's what we're going to run through and talk about. Is that legitimate? Do we know that for a fact? What do we think's going on here? We've heard that true freshman Jayvon Thomas and Josh DeBerry have both been mixing in at starting reps, at the cornerback position. It's everybody I've read. I've said it personally. I think, Tyreek Chappell is the guy at your one spot. So the other cornerback spot, and then, Bryce Anderson's at your nickel. We know who the safeties are. The question is that last cornerback spot. And I think you can look at this in a positive way. The way I break this down is I look at this and I go, I'm personally happy if Tony Grimes, Sam McCall, Josh DeBerry, Jayvon Thomas, or Brayvon Rogers is in there. Now, I will make my little veteran spiel here and talk about how personally, and this is another good question to ask, is personally, I would take McCall, Grimes, or DeBerry over Thomas and Rogers. Now, Thomas and Rogers are talented, but they are freshmen, true freshmen. They are just gotten here. I don't know how I am not the biggest fan of true freshmen playing, except for at some of the offensive skill positions, because I think it's kind of just more comes natural to you there, like receivers and running backs. I don't mind, offensive line. I rarely ever want to see an offensive lineman starting as a true freshman. I mean, it's scary. They haven't grown into their big man body yet. And so, now, if Jayvon Thomas is the best cornerback we have, play him. Put him out there. What do I know? I'm not a coach. I'm not out there every day. All I can argue is that it does scare me a little bit having true freshmen out there at, corner, at defensive line, offensive line. It scares me a little bit, linebacker as well. So I'm really hoping that Josh DeBerry or Sam McCall or Tony Grimes kind of steps up. Sam McCall's younger than Grimes and DeBerry, but he did get some snaps last year at Florida State, played in about 8 games. So the question is, like, I want it to be one of those guys. I want to see Grimes, McCall, or DeBerry out there. If you all disagree, once again, let me know in the YouTube comments. I want to have a big open discussion here today on Locked On Aggies. But, I'm a believer in that. Now, next year, let it be Thomas. Let it be Rogers. And if it's this year, I'm not going to complain because, like I said, I'm not a coach. I'm not out there every day. I'm going to trust in whoever DJ Durkin and Jimbo send out there to play corner. I'm not going to be upset about it. I'm going to accept and be happy with whoever goes out there. But if I had to pick who I would want to be out there, it would be Tony Grimes, Sam McCall, or Josh DeBerry. I'm a big believer in experience. I'm a big believer in you've been there before. A lot, ACC transfers. So these guys, that's the question. Will they be able to kind of transfer over into the SEC? So you can make that argument too. McCall, Grimes, and DeBerry are freshmen when it comes to playing SEC football. I mean, it's a new thing. Obviously they're older guys, but they haven't played in the SEC before. So they are learning the speed of the game, learning the adjustments, the physicality, the same time Jayvon Thomas and Brayvon Rogers are. So it's a good question to ask. Who's going to be the guy? Will one of these guys take over? And the last question I'll kind of raise to this debate is, I still have a feeling Tony Grimes wins the job. I don't know if that's my guy and I'm backing it. Maybe that's just what that is. But I think that sometimes as fans, we deep dive too much into what's going on at fall camp. Now, it's all important. I love hearing positive things. I love hearing how well players are doing. Like hearing that Rogers and Thomas and even Brooks have been doing well. I love hearing that because these guys are the future. But are we ready for the future now, or do we want the older guys to be there now? That's kind of where this question happens. So I still think Grimes wins the job. Like I said, now, I haven't heard anything negative on Grimes. I haven't heard a single negative thing. All I've heard is that DeBerry and Thomas have really been kind of taking over and impressing. Same with McCall. I haven't heard anything negative about McCall, but I haven't heard a ton of positives. You just kind of like he's there, he's practicing. So I still have this suspicion that Tony Grimes is going to win the job. But let me know in the comments. I mean, would you be okay with one of these young corners coming in and starting? Would you want it to be DeBerry? You know what? Like, I still have a feeling Grimes might win the job, but I almost would rather see Josh DeBerry be in there because he's the two things I like to hear. Coaches are talking lots positive about him in fall camp, and he's got experience. So I think I'd be okay with him going in there and being the guy. But let me know in the comments, aside from Tyreek Chappell, Bryce Anderson, Damani Richardson, I mean, in the second, like, who is going to start at the other cornerback position? Let me know in the comments. Who do you think is going to start? I'm going to go with Josh DeBerry. I've changed my mind. I said Tony Grimes. I've thought about it. I think Josh DeBerry is your other starting cornerback. But let me know in the comments who you think is going to start for Texas A&M at the cornerback position. How much is Conner Weigman going to use his legs this season? I don't know. It's a good question. I was just sitting here thinking I was like, how much is Weigman going to use his legs? We're going to talk about that coming up right here on Locked On Aggies. Two questions we are going to run through. How much is Conner Weigman going to use his legs? And who has more catches, Moose or Noah Thomas? We'll start with this Conner Weigman, how much he uses his legs kind of thing. And now I think there's multiple ways to use it. So I like Conner Weigman to be the starter. I think he's going to be so, obviously. But the reason I've been so high on Weigman is his athleticism and his ability to use his legs. He's quicker than people give him credit for. So I think my thought there is it's kind of like people used to say that with Stetson Bennett. It's like you watch the film and you're like, okay, and then you get out there, they say he's quick. And I think that it's the same, similar with Conner Weigman. I think he's quicker than people give him credit for. So the question we have to ask ourselves is, how much is he going to use his legs? I think, and now this counts to design plays. This counts to if he's rolling out of the pocket, nothing's there, and he leaves the pocket. We're not just talking about design plays. We're talking about, in general, how much will he use his legs? Coach Petrino has a history, of course, of having coached Lamar Jackson. He's got a history of running quarterbacks. And Conner Weigman is a guy who can run the football if he's called upon to do so. I think that you might see a called like RPO type of thing, a quarterback draw, a certain, I think you might see a drawn up run play for Conner Weigman this season. I wouldn't be surprised by it. I think he's quick enough to do it, especially if the running game is working and the passing game is working. If Conner Weigman sticks the football in Le'Veon Moss, Amari Daniels, Ruben Owens' belly, whoever it is, if he sticks it in their belly, pulls it, and runs, I think that play could go for a lot of yards. Just because, I think Weigman's a guy who can run, but he's not going to do it a ton. So when he does it, I think it's going to surprise some defenses. And then I think that's the other good thing about his ability to use his legs. If he rolls out to his right, there's nothing there, Evan Stewart's blanketed, Moose, Noah Thomas, Nias, whoever's out there is blanketed. Take off, pick up 6-7 yards, get a little something. And I think you're going to see Weigman use his legs. I think you'll see some design plays, and I think you'll see him take off on some broken plays, which is I think it's going to lead to some positive plays. I think that he's fast enough that if he runs the football, he can get you 5, 10, 15 yards and potentially, break a big one if something crazy were to happen. I mean, he's not slow. Conner Weigman is not slow. And I think that's a luxury you have with him compared to Max Johnson. Now, I don't think Max Johnson's like the slowest person in the world, but he doesn't have the same athleticism and speed as Conner Weigman. So you're going to see Weigman take off and use his legs, and I think that's going to lead to a lot of broken plays, big plays, and yards for Texas A&M this year. So that's my guess is I think he runs the football designed 1 or 2 times a game, and I think he'll roll out and run it 1 or 2 times a game too. I think you'll see him 3 to 5 times a game. You'll see Conner Weigman take off and run the football. And I don't know if I count quarterback sneaks because, it's situational more than anything. I mean, it counts technically, but so that's my thought on how much Conner is going to use his legs. I think he's going to use them a good amount, but that'll be fun to look out for. How much does Conner Weigman use his legs? Is he going to use them a lot, a little bit? That's a question I can't wait to have answered when we see the Aggies take the field against New Mexico here in a few weeks. Who has more catches, Noah Thomas or Moose? I think it's going to be Noah Thomas, and I think it's going to be purely snap-based. I think Noah Thomas is going to get significantly more snaps than Moose. Now, significantly, I think is strong. Like, I think that a lot of it's going to be situational. I think Noah Thomas is going to be out there as a starter. Moose is going to kind of flip in and out with Anias. He might come out and play a snap for Evan Stewart. Now, things can happen. Injuries can happen if, Anias were to go down or Evan Stewart were to go down. You're going to see a lot more Moose. So I think it's Noah Thomas, and I don't think this is going to be that close. I think that both are going to be utilized a ton. Both are going to play a lot of snaps. Both are going to get a lot of targets. But I just think Noah Thomas, I think Moose brings a lot of what Anias Smith does, and I think Anias Smith is better than Moose personally. Now that's funny. That could be its own debate too, because they're both extremely talented players. I don't think you can go wrong either way on that question. But I think Noah Thomas, like I said, I think Anias can do what Moose does, but I don't think any other receiver on this team can do what Noah Thomas does with his mixture of athleticism, size, speed, the ability to win the 50-50 ball. So I think Noah Thomas has more catches than Moose this year. That's my opinion. But ladies and gentlemen, answer all these questions in the comments for me. How many wins is acceptable to you? Who's going to be starting at cornerback? And how much is Weigman going to use his legs? Who has more catches, Moose and Noah Thomas? I love it when we're interactive here on Locked On Aggies. So let me know. Let me know in the comments and on the YouTube comments on all these questions. But that is going to do it for today's episode of Locked On Aggies. Thank you so much for tuning in. It means the world to me. I hope everybody has an amazing rest of your day today. We're going to do a mailbag on tomorrow's episode of Locked On Aggies. In this episode on Thursday, I will put a comment pinned at the top that says, drop me some mailbag questions. So drop those on Thursday's episode, and then I'll answer them on Friday's episode. Have a great rest of your day today, and we will see you tomorrow.